What drew you to, get personally involved with this? What drew you to get excited about being so involved with the associations?
I wanted to make an impact and give back. I didn't want people to. I always have this negative connotation about salespeople, and I didn't want to be that. With Mitchell, I didn't want to be considered a salesperson. I wanted to be considered a consultant. Someone that came in to help shops, educate them, give them guidance. I wasn't, and I still not. I'm not a big, ROI guy. I believe my ROI will come down the road. I don't need it right now because I believe that in the future, as I'm helping and guiding shops, they'll see how I bring product, service, and image to them. Success comes with that, and it has in the past, and so that's what I keep doing. And if I make one shop better, that's all that matters.
Welcome to the Auto Repair Boss Show. I'm your host, Jim Parker, and on this show, we talk to shop owners and operators, industry experts, to find out what's really happening in the auto industry, from growing your business to preparing for the future. Today, I'm really excited because we have with us Ementi Coary, the Executive Director of the Florida Auto Body Association, someone deeply involved in helping advance the collision repair industry through education, leadership, and advocacy. Many shop owners focus only on what happens inside the four walls, but some of the strongest operators understand that growth often comes from getting connected, staying educated, and being part of something bigger than themselves. Ementi, welcome to the show. I appreciate you taking the time today.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate you having me.
Excellent. Why don't you start off and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
My background originally started as a police officer back in the Chicagoland market, but then after I decided to get out of that, I actually went to go work for the insurance company because I thought they were going to hire me as an SIU officer. I won't mention the insurance company's name, but they put me out in the field as an adjuster, said I had to learn that side of the business. I did that for about a year when I realized that they weren't moving me. I proceeded to take a position with Patrick BMW Collision as an estimator. Worked for Patrick for, holy cow, 8 years at BMW. Then we opened up a new facility where I took over as a manager at our Hyundai location. So we had 3 body shops then. Stayed there for 2 years until they sold it. Then I proceeded to go into working for another dealer group that bought it. I wasn't able to go back to Patrick. I actually got stuck at that location. So I worked for them for 2 years until I decided I couldn't take it anymore because the owner had no idea how to run a body shop, none whatsoever. Wouldn't listen to the way I was seeing things and the way I've learned throughout the 10 years that I had been doing it. And so I took a job working for Mitchell International, left Chicagoland, moved to Kansas, and covered the Midwest for Mitchell for 4 years, covering Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa, and a sliver of Missouri. And then I had to move down to Florida due to some family things that happened, and I proceeded to take a position with Spinizzi as a director of sales. That lasted for 6 months. Wasn't what I thought it was going to be. After that, I proceeded to take basically a sabbatical for a month to see, hey, do I want to stay in this industry? Do I not want to stay in this industry? And everybody that I talked to was like, you need to stay in this industry. You need to stay in this industry. I'm like, okay. So at that time, Mitchell wasn't hiring back anybody. They were actually, I think, in a hiring freeze at that time. So I took a position with Parts Trader, worked for Parts Trader for 2 years until a position came available with Mitchell. And I'm like, I'm out of here. Back with Mitchell I went, covering the Southeast. So with Mitchell, I cover Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and then I do calibrations for Florida. I do need to point out that, Jim, the one thing you said was correct. I am the executive director of the Florida Auto Body Association, but also the executive director for Tennessee and the Gulf states. So I cover 3 associations.
Wow, that's a lot. That's great. Good for you.
Oh, and let me back up one more thing. In between all that time, I learned about associations through an executive director in Iowa, Janet Cheney. Then I worked a little bit with Nebraska, trying to see how that went. Started Kansas, started Missouri, and then started Oklahoma, and I started Florida. So I've literally started 4 associations in my time frame.
Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations on that. What drew you to, get personally involved with this? What drew you to get excited about being so involved with the associations?
Well, you know what? I think it just had to be where I wanted to make an impact and give back. I didn't want people to. I always have this negative connotation about salespeople, and I didn't want to
Hmm.
be that. With Mitchell, I didn't want to be considered a salesperson. I wanted to be considered a consultant. Someone that came in to help shops, educate them, give them guidance. I wasn't, and I still not. I'm not a big, ROI guy. I believe my ROI will come down the road. I don't need it right now because I believe that in the future, as I'm helping and guiding shops, they'll see how I bring product, service, and image to them, and success comes with that, and it has in the past, and so that's what I keep doing, and so that's the reason why I do it is because I want to make a difference, and if I make one shop better, that's all that matters.
So you're still working at Mitchell full time, and
Yep.
then you're also in charge of 4 associations. That's
Three,
absolutely
three,
amazing.
three, only
Three
three. Don't
associations.
don't give me another.
Only three. Yeah, only
I,
three associations.
I don't need a fourth.
That's really incredible. Do you mind, like, because we've got listeners from all over the country. Do you mind giving us a quick rundown about each association, maybe the size and whatever, how long ago they were founded, or any information you think would be pertinent for somebody to listen to that might
Well,
spark some interest in
Florida's
them
going into their
joining?
second year right now. They're going in
Hmm.
their second year. They've made some major leaps. We have 445 members in the association because we go by shop size. So people sign up their shop size depending on how many employees they have, right? They've also gone ahead and we've just hired a lobbyist. So that's huge for
Yeah.
Florida. So we now have a lobbyist that's working with us, going on his second month. I mean, so that's brand spanking new. Um, the Tennessee Collision Repair Association, they've been around for, I probably have to say, maybe 5 years, maybe, well, actually longer than that. Let me rephrase that. They've been around for 15, maybe 20 years back. They were started from Jackson, Tennessee, was the shop owners that started the association. And then they slowly grew it. I just took it over right before the new year when their executive director moved on. So they've actually been around for a long time, but they did some growth in between that time from the former executive director to where I have them at now, to the point of where we're going to be interviewing a lobbyist in 2 weeks. Two of them, we're interviewing two lobbyists, so they're getting ready to go into that next stage as well, right? So that's huge. And then the Gulf states used to be the Mississippi Collision Repair Association, and for some reason 3 4 years ago, yeah, maybe 3 years ago, they combined 3 states, Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana, I guess to draw more membership, try to make it a little bit more impactful. That's still a growth in process. We did a total revamp on that, redid the whole foundation of that. So we're working hard at doing that. We've done some 3-day tours, which I can go into later, but getting speakers around the state. We go next week, is we're actually in Louisiana. So we have Lee Rush speaking in Lafayette on Tuesday, Baton Rouge on Wednesday, and in New Orleans on Thursday, which they're having a really good turnout right now on sign up. So that's that's huge. So we're making impact. We got 3 board members in Louisiana that never were there before. So they had no representation whatsoever for the Gulf states other than the executive board, which is kind
Hmm.
of hard to do when you don't have anybody in the state, right? So that was huge. We're looking at adding another board member there, another board member in each of the other states. So we're working on building that. We do have a connection with if they start looking at wanting to go that whole legislative route, we are starting to look at what options there are for 3 states for one representative to handle that, right? For a lobbyist. So, so there's a lot of that one's going to be a lot of that will probably be my biggest challenge to achieve. If I do that, I might need a big gold star on my shirt. So, but that's what's going on with that. I left Oklahoma to go work on the other Gulf states because I don't really travel to Oklahoma anymore because I cover the areas that I have with Mitchell are in each one of the associations. So it's easier for me to put on my Mitchell hat and then turn it and put my association hat on when I'm talking to shops, right? So, but Oklahoma, I was there for 2 years, built that up to where they hired a lobbyist right before I left. So they're doing their thing. I will tell you, the biggest impact right now that's going on is, and I don't know if you've read this at all in any of the industry news, but the insurance companies in the first quarter raised the amount of money that they're giving to their lobbyists to start handling what their agenda is. And if you really think about it, it's not about their agenda's always been the same, right? As far as what their goals are and so forth. But really what they're doing is they're combating the fact that associations now are having lobbyists and are actually pushing back. So the only way for them to be able to do that is they need they
Up
need
it.
more funds to be able to give to campaigns and so forth. And the one thing I like about Tennessee is actually you have a limit on how much campaign money you can give. So it's not like free game, right? So that's kind of nice for them. But yeah, I mean, in every single one of our states, it's an election year. Go figure, right? I mean, so now when you're talking about states that have to be able to try to, help, give campaign donations or whatever for people to support their cause, it gets a little bit more expensive when you got people running for office, right? So,
Yeah.
but I think I do think that there's hope that there will become a common ground and that the associations will not be looked at as anti anything because they're really not. They're not anti insurance. They're not anti DRP. They're not anti dealerships. They're not anti MSO. What their main focus is education, training, and safe and proper repairs. And that is it. That's what they want. They want to be able to get paid for what they do, and being able to fix these cars safe and proper because the bottom line is the liability falls on them, not the
Yeah.
insurance company, right? So many people think that it's the insurance company that holds the liability and they don't. So, I think I eventually I believe that there will be a common goal. Is it going to be easy? No. Will there be some struggles? Absolutely. But, if people want to stay in this industry and they want to do well, um, they just need to be able to stand up for what they're doing and do what is right.
Yeah, and that's great to hear that so many of the associations are stepping up the lobbying effort. Mente, I got to tell you that I'm was really looking forward to you coming on today onto the podcast because I really believe in industry associations so wholeheartedly. I don't know if you know this, like I spent 10 years on the board of the Business Brokers of Florida. I was a three term chairman of the Business Brokers of Florida. And I've been on the board of the International Business Brokers Association now for 4 years, and I'm the current chairman of that association. And I'm like you. I started getting really highly involved with associations because I wanted to give back because they had given me so much over the years. And I think that a lot of people out there that do not belong to associations have the wrong impression about associations. They're just like, meetings and dues and networking events, yawn, yawn, yawn. But you join the right association that's being run properly with the correct people involved. It could be life. It could be career changing. It can be changing huge changes for an owner's business. I mean, it's just kind of next level, and that's kind of stuff I wanted to dig into today with you, Amente, if that's okay with you.
Yeah. I will tell
And I
you
want to
that.
ask you, let me ask you, because I want to hear from you, why do you think people underestimate the power of associations?
Well, because of bad experiences. I mean, it's
Yeah.
no different than salespeople, right? People have a bad experience with a salesperson. They think all salespeople are terrible. I mean, that's the problem. Is that just because it didn't work before, maybe it just wasn't the right time. Okay,
Hmm.
and I will tell you that the people that go to our events always come back with something. I have every person tell me, "Hey, you know what? I learned something. This is great. I can't wait to bring it back." Right. And that's the point of why we do it by shop size, because as a former manager, I will tell you that I went to educational events, would come back all excited. Oh man, I got this great thing. And then I started implementing it, and my technicians weren't involved. They didn't see it. They didn't hear it. So they were not bought in, and it never lasted, right? It would end up, 3 or 4 days later, maybe a week, and that whole process went right out the window, right? So it's important that not just management, front office people, but your technicians have to be understanding of what your goal is and why you're asking them to do certain things, right? And we're at a tight spot right now where our industry is lacking technicians big time. I don't blame it on the industry. I really blame it on our education system, because in
Hmm.
the education system they don't push trades, and very few schools push
Right.
trades. It's all about go to a 4 year college, but in reality, people make more money in trades than they do coming out of a 4 year college, unless you're a high end lawyer or doctor or something like that. I mean, you got technicians that are making over 6 figures a year. So I mean, it's a job that got weekend and holidays off.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
You think,
that's
but
that's where it's
I
at.
want to talk about this education more, Mente, because it is such an important, it's the cornerstone of most associations, the associations that you belong to, and there's a lot of shop owners out there, and techs and stuff that look at it and go, I've been doing it for X amount of years, I've got all this experience, I don't need the education, but that education is so important. Like, I don't care how long you've been doing it. You may not, if you've been doing it for 20 years, 25 years, yeah, you probably aren't going to pick up as much as the person next to you that's been doing it for 4 or 5 years, but you can still usually pick up some really good nuggets here and there that could make a big difference. And especially because things are kind of moving, things are kind of moving more quickly in technology, and things are just changing quicker now, right? In your industry.
It's changing quicker than you can spin your head. I mean, the bottom line is, and it really bothers me when I go in the shops and people think that they know everything and they don't. All right. These cars have drastically changed in the last 5 years, let alone the last 20 years. All right. There's more electronics in a car than there is in a 747. So
Wow.
you can't tell me you know more on how to fix these cars and then tell me that, well, I don't need to do that repair procedure, even though that the engineer that designed the car says this is what needs to be done. Okay, we're not engineers. Our job is to follow the procedures on how to fix the car safe and proper to get it back to pre-accident condition. Period. Not, well, I've been doing it this way for 20 years, and I don't mean to offend anybody. All right, because I'm sure there's a lot of guys that'll maybe be watching this that have been doing it for a while, but I'm going to tell you, those are the people that are not going to make it in our industry. Those are going to be the ones in the next 3 to 5 years that either close their doors or turn their shop more into like a Mako. And because they're not going to be able to compete, you need to have the equipment, you need to have the education, you need to have the training. Well, where are you going to find that? If you're not going to go to an educational event because it's on a Saturday, oh man, I got to go to an event on a Saturday. It's 1 or 2 Saturdays a year.
Yeah.
Really? Come on. Don't, and I'm, again, I apologize. I'm very straightforward. I'm not going to beat around the bush, but for those people that could complain because it's on a Saturday, listen, you have plenty of notice. It's not like it's last minute when that Saturday is. Perfect example. We have an event coming up June 20th. Okay, in Florida, we have a great speaker coming, David Lord, to come in and talk about procedures and operations and all that stuff for your shop. Okay, well, if you don't attend it, then how are you going to get any better? Okay. Same thing
Right.
with the 3-day tours. The 3-day tours, we're actually bringing something closer to you. Now, what's your excuse? Right? We're doing a 3-day tour in May 19th, 20th, and 21st. So we in Pensacola, Tallahassee, and Ocala. So now, if you're in those areas and you're within a 60-mile radius, you now have something that's close to you that you can go to after hours, not during while you're working. So that excuse is gone, right? So yeah, I mean, I just get so I get so emotional and like, okay, stop just living within your four walls. All right. Because
Right.
there's a lot more out there about what's going on, and you need to be educated, and you need to know how to be able to communicate properly to get paid for what you need to get paid for, and not have those headaches and feeling like, man, the insurance company's attacking me. Well, no. How about let's document and explain why you need that procedure, not just say, oh, pay me for this. So
Right. Right.
sorry, I just got off
No, don't be
tangent.
sorry. I'm completely on board with you. Like because of my because I sell I specialize in selling auto repair related businesses. That's my specialty, and I see it. I go to the conferences. Our conferences aren't for people that sell auto repair related businesses, but I go to conferences for the we're all there to sell businesses. We're all business brokers or M&A advisors that are there. And I've been practicing for 25 years, and I go to, and I'm the chairman this year. We have our conference coming up in a couple weeks for the International Business Brokers Association. Even though I'm the chairman, I'm still going to be sitting in the workshops. I'm still going to be going to the classes because there's always something more you can know. Have that mindset, and I know you said it, but I want to reiterate it. You have that mindset as I know everything or I know most everything. You always can pull away with more nuggets. And the other thing too is like your employees. If you're the owner of the business, like I look at all of our agents at our company, we pay for the conference fees, the airfare, the hotel, their food. We pay for everything from the moment they leave their house until the moment they come back because it's an investment in their education, which means it's an investment in our company. And I don't think shop owners necessarily, and business brokers or whatever industry you want to call it. I'm not picking on shop owners. I'm just across the board with any industry. A lot of business owners don't look at it that way. That it's a real. When you're investing in your employees, you're basically investing in your own company. The more knowledgeable your staff is, the more valuable you become to your customers and your clients.
Oh, absolutely. It's all about culture. I mean, I will tell you right now. I mean, I remember when I was in the shop and I went as an estimator, and how the manager back then used to treat people, right? And I used to sit
Mhm.
next to him in the office, right? So he was right next to me on my right, and how I watched him treat vendors, employees, yelling, screaming, banging things. It made me realize that culture was an important thing. So when I took over, our shop that we had in Palatine, the one thing I did was, it was small, but it was little. Every Friday in the summer, we used to barbecue. Every Friday, we would have a barbecue in the back, right? Because our goal was to have everything pretty much done, but a few things left on Friday, and for them just to have an appreciation. Hey, we really appreciate what you're doing. So I think a lot of that is culture in shops. Shops complain about being able to hire people, right? And they're like, well, I can't get anybody, I can't find anybody. Well, sometimes you got to look at the culture. It's not always about the money. Yes, there's some techs that just chase the money, we get it, right? But
Yeah.
if you provide a culture that is just, whether it be insurance or days off or whatever, air conditioning, if you need to have air conditioning, I mean, all those
Well,
things.
and I'm sorry to cut you off, Emente, but even what we're talking about, if you're investing in their education so that they personally get better what they do, and they get better at, it helps their career. They're going to be thankful for that. You know what I mean? Because I think most people want to get better at what they do, and that investment I think goes a long way.
Yeah, I mean, and don't get me wrong. I mean, you're still going to have the techs that take off, and oh, I don't want to
Or
educate
don't
them
care.
because then they're going to go somebody else and blah blah. Listen, I can tell you right now, it really is about them learning and saying, hey, you really care about me. And it's also hiring the right employees, right? Just
Yeah.
don't hire anybody that comes off the street. Do an interview, do the background, do whatever you need to do to, check references. I mean, so many people just hire people just to be a body, and then they wonder why the culture is bad because the person they hired is just a bad seed, a bad apple, right?
I talked to Ementi. I talked to a lot of different shop owners from around the country, and I see um, not so good businesses to really, really good businesses. And the business owners that tend to have the best businesses, they usually pay their employees very well. They usually do the things that you were talking about, having a good culture there, taking care of them, vacation times, and, you know, investing in their education, being there for their employees, making them feel like they're important. And it's not just that, but taking care of the customers, taking care of their suppliers. Like, you know, it's not about just the dollars. It's about creating that whole like cycle between the customers, your suppliers, and your employees, and treating everybody really, really well and doing the best you can for them. And then they want to do the best they can for you, you know?
Right.
And that's the culture, and I'm telling you, that's what I see. It's the shop owners that try to pay as little as they possibly can, try to give as little vacation as they possibly can. Their businesses usually suffer the most. They have the highest, employee turnover. Their employees haven't been there very long. They're not getting as good tax. I can go on, but I think you're getting, you see what I see.
Oh, absolutely. And I can tell you, I don't think I'll ever go back in the shop, but if I did, I will tell you right now that every year there would be the same vacation for everybody. We just shut the shop down, 2 weeks, done deal. Everybody goes on vacation. Everybody goes at one time. There's no worry about being able to hit certain numbers. You put it in the books. You know when the vacation's going to be, and everybody goes. They come back nice, refreshed, relaxed, ready to keep rocking and rolling. I think those kinds of things make a huge difference. And then, of course, getting your employees to know how to fix these cars safer, giving them the information, providing them documentation, providing them repair procedures, anything that can help them do their jobs better.
And you know what, Mente? Because we're talking about education in general here, and we've been really focusing for the most part. You did mention something very quickly, but we've been focused most of it about the technical knowledge or the technology they pick up. But it goes beyond that, and because these your associations are also providing education for the shop owner to run a better shop, to be a better business owner. Correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We do that on the standpoint of how to handle customer success, right? And with the customer when they come in, how to, do things, we have such wonderful presenters. I mean, we've had Mike Anderson, we've had we're going to have Tony Adams is going to be coming in to do a class on culture, which will be huge, right? We got David Lohr coming in. I mean, we've got Sean Preston, an attorney that handles all these right to appraisal stuff, right? All up and down the eastern seaboard that shops are getting paid for. We just have so much stuff that has come in. 3M came in, did a presentation. I mean, all this stuff helps from the front of the office all the way to the back, right? And if
Hmm.
we can educate your CSR people to the managers, to the estimators, whatever we can do, it's the association is for everybody, right? I mean, it's not just labeled for owners or managers. It needs to be for everybody. And the biggest thing I will tell you is the shops that I see that bring. I had a shop in Mississippi, Tupelo, Mississippi, Daybright Collision. They brought 8 people to a 3-day tour. 8.
Wow,
All right. That was their whole front office staff and a technician. So they
that's
wanted their
great.
people. So, when you bring that many people and when they got done, every single one of them said, man, I learned something new. I learned something new. Well, again, if you just take one new nugget away, like you say, nugget, all right, then it was a success for 2 hours out of your day.
The more you learn, the more you earn.
Yep.
Basically that.
Yep.
It meant that you had mentioned something early in the show that I really want to dive into because I feel that this is one of the most valuable things in associations. You said that, you know, get out from being in your own island. And I think that's a huge thing that there's a lot of business owners out there that have their shop, they've owned it for many years. And, they just, them and their staff, they just kind of, stay within their four walls and they do their own thing and they're isolated, from every other, shop owner out there. Let's talk about why that is damaging and how much you can improve by, rubbing shoulders and talking to other really great business owners out there that are running very successful businesses.
Well,
If you,
first,
if we could touch on that.
I will touch on that, but I'm going to tell you, I'll give you my own story.
Okay.
For years, I had my blinders on when I was up in the Chicagoland market. Never talked, went to anything, had no idea, never knew what was going on with me. It wasn't until I met a gentleman by the name of Jimmy Harris who worked for Axel Nobel, who was a consultant for them, right? And because we shot Sickens, he came in one day, he spent a half a day with me, 4 hours, Jim, educating me, teaching me, show me, hey, these are the reasons why you need to be involved and learn and go to these events and all this other stuff. If I didn't have someone come in and tell me, I probably would have stayed inside those four walls, right? And that's the problem is I didn't know how to negotiate. I didn't know how to deal with certain issues that we were coming up against. I didn't know about certain repair procedures. There's tons of stuff you don't know about, right? And when you get stuck in those four walls, you have no idea what's going on around you, and not your the shop down the street is not your enemy. All right.
Hmm.
And we've been, and I want to be careful how I say this, but we've been programmed to believe that every other shop is against us. There is so much work out there. All right. And if you don't have work compared to the other shop, then you need to look inside yourself and see what you're doing wrong that you don't have the same amount of work as that shop. Right.
Yep.
Because I can tell you right now, I was talking to a shop in Pensacola, and he is the only shop in Pensacola that's crushing it right now. And I'm talking against MSOs, independents, everybody, right? So why is that? It's because he's educating himself. His people come to education. He stays on top of what's new, what's going on, right? So he's outside of his walls learning about the industry. And I think that's the problem that we have is like I said, we're programmed to think that, the shop down the street's our enemy, and they're not.
Hmm.
Okay. They want to know how to do things. And so I had a shop, which shop is, the same shop in Pensacola. He proceeded to tell me yesterday, we were on the phone talking, that another shop in Pensacola reached out to him and said, hey, I might have to close my doors. He said, what are you talking about? He goes, are you doing this, and this? He's like, no. He goes, start doing this, and this. So, your shop down the street could be there to try to help you stay alive, right? I mean, he doesn't want to see that shop close. Would it help his business? Well, absolutely. Any shop that closes gives you more business coming your way, right? But he wanted that shop to be successful as well. And I think that's the problem is we need to learn that these other shop owners and the board, I can tell you right now, people on the board for the Florida Auto Body Association, including some of the officers, man, they're always like, hey, if someone needs something, send them my way. I'll talk to them. RTAs is a big thing. I got two board members that are like, if someone wants a question on RTAs or how to do them, here's my number. So why aren't we taking advantage of that stuff?
Friendly competition could be one of the most powerful, most impactful things for a business owner. You kind of told your story real quick. I'll tell my story real quick. I had been selling businesses for quite a while before I joined the International Business Brokers Association, and I was I'd been doing it for a while, so I was a good broker. I knew what I was doing. I was closing deals. My buyers and sellers were happy. They were, you know what I mean. It was a good thing. But when I joined the IBBA and I got involved really heavily in the IBBA, my practice went to a completely different level. And yeah, we can talk about the classes and the workshops and the educational things, which they were so impactful. But I think the most impactful thing, and let me say it this way, like when you go to a conference and you're taking the workshops and the classes and things like that, they're fantastic. You got to do it. They're wonderful. You're going to walk away. Sometimes your head's going to be spinning if you're kind of newer in the industry, and if you're older or you're a veteran in the industry. Like you said, just picking up a couple nuggets here can make a big impact. But what's to me is even more important, or just as important, is when the conference is over for the day, is going to the bar and hanging out. I don't care if you have a beer, a glass of wine, or a Coca-Cola, but hanging out, meeting and interacting with other people in your industry and building relationships with them. My practice started really just blowing up when I started building relationships with some of the best business brokers throughout the United States, to the point like I would tell them things that I was doing. They would tell me things that they were doing. And you're sharing ideas and you're making each other better. And you know what's happening? Not only you're making yourself better and that person better, and you're doing that with all these other people, and you're building those relationships and you're building friendships, but you're also raising the bar for the entire industry. And that I think is I think is wonderful.
Oh yeah, I can't tell you. I love the networking part. The networking part is the best part of what I
I
do.
hate the networking, but I like building the relationships. I know
You
that
know,
sounds weird.
I
So
mean,
I cut you off, Mente. Go ahead.
building relation network, it's all the same to me. Because you're in there talking about the industry, and that was one of the things I like about when I put on conferences. Like we got the one for Music City coming up in August in Tennessee, which I'm super excited about. But I just got back from CIC and SCRS meetings, and they have a cocktail reception after the CIC meeting, and every single, I guess, I mean, you can call it big wigs or whatever, but you have a lot of influential people there that you get to talk to. And, you haven't seen them in probably 3 months or 4 months, but, they're always there sharing ideas, giving you, pat on the back. Hey, I heard about what you're doing. Good job. It's nice to be able to meet with those people and talk with them and just share. Cause, I think what I was going to say, I got a stack of business cards that I got from being in North Carolina for the conference over there, of people saying, "Hey, reach out to me." So yeah, I think just getting together and talking. I've had I a lot of times I'll sit back and just watch the room because I want to see how our members are interacting with other members. And they do. People from different kinds of shops are talking and learning stuff, and that's huge. That is totally huge.
It is. You sometimes when you go to these conferences, I don't know about but in my industry, sometimes you walk away with the most important nugget, not from the conference itself, but hanging out in the bar having a beer with somebody, and you're having a conversation. They say something, you're like, "Bam! I didn't think of it that way." And it's impactful. And you know what? It's a fun way to do it. It's a fun way to learn.
Right. And I've been doing a lot more panel discussions now. I've been putting those in our conference a lot more because
Oh,
I like
great.
I like to be able to. I think we did a panel discussion with Mike Anderson in Hattiesburg, and it was with the paint vendors, and it was supposed to be an hour long and ended up being an hour and a half, but it got people in the room to be able to ask questions, interact. And that's something that we've always just had our speakers come in and speak and speak and speak, and just flood our head with all kinds of information. But having that ability now that to start having these panel discussions and allowing members to be able to ask questions instead of just hearing stuff, I think is going to be impactful too as we move forward with our conferences.
Oh, that's great. You're doing. I still can't believe you got you're the executive director of three associations and you work for Mitchell. It still blows my mind. I don't know how you do it, Mente.
Well, I mean,
That's just
I gotta
incredible.
give a shout out to Mitchell first of all, because I mean they're the ones that allow me the ability to do what I'm doing, which is huge because they truly believe in giving back some way, shape, or form to shops, right? They're not about just taking the money for estimating platforms or diagnostic. They really want us to be able to go out in the field and be consultants and be able to help shops grow and do whatever we can to do. And the success that I had in the Midwest, they were like, go ahead, keep going, do what you do best. So, I'm thankful for a good company that allows me to be able to do that.
That's great. That is really nice of Mitchell that they do that. That's excellent. Do you feel like the the businesses that get involved with an association, and I'm not talking just like joining the association, paying the dues, but I'm talking about getting in there and getting to know people and participating and going to the conferences and stuff. Do you see a direct correlation between how they were before they joined the association and maybe a few years afterwards, and how their business operates from efficiency to systems and processes, like just being an overall better business, I guess?
Are you talking from the shop side or are you talking vendor side?
I'm talking from the shop side.
Shop
You
size,
think the shop owners?
I think what's important with there is some of the connections that they get to help them, right? Some of them don't realize that their paint companies offer 20 groups, right? Or they don't realize that some of the speakers that come in hire their services, right? Like Mike Anderson has a Spartan group and so forth. This allows them to be able to figure out how to do their business. Or if they're not ready to go to that level, they can take something that we've already gave them, a nugget, and start working on that to see how that changes. And I do see when people get educated, I always see impact in their shops, whether it be small, cycle times, whether it be, getting paid more for, following the repair procedures and documenting it right, to, whether it be, just overall culture in their shop, right? I mean, I definitely, when I get the chance to go around and see shops, I'm able to know, well, wow, they weren't like that before the last time I stopped in. Now look at them. So
Right.
I do truly believe those that take the association serious, and realize that it's there for them to get better. They end up getting better. You got to believe in what you're going to, right? If you don't believe in it, it's never gonna come true.
And I think that's the big thing is what you said. You gotta believe. Like you're not gonna get better just like by paying the association dues and going to an event here and there, but you're not participating. You're not actually going to the classes. You're not getting to know people. And like you gotta really, if you embrace it, it's great. And it's the people within the associations themselves. Because like for like instance on what I do in selling businesses, I've got, I would say some of my best friends in the world are fellow business brokers from around the country. So they're competitors at the end of the day, but we're friendly competitors. And you know what ends up happening is like it happens all the time. At least once a week, I'm calling somebody or somebody's calling me about, hey, this happened, or how would you handle this? There's something weird that doesn't normally happen, and just call it. And so it goes beyond those friendships that you build at the conferences. If you do it right, you're building that from outside, so that when you get outside those conferences, you're all sharing information again outside, and you're calling each other when weird things pop up, or hey, I want to get your opinion on this or your opinion on that, and I don't know. So I just think everybody should just go in there and join an association and just really embrace it.
And you know what? I'm going to piggyback on that about the associations, right? So first of all, I got to tell you, the associations that I run, every single person that joins one of our associations, if they provide us their logo, we put it on the website. Guess what? They can write that off as a marketing expense now because it's on our
Mm,
website. We're marketing for them, right? They click on the link, it goes right to their website. So that's first of all, it's a free membership.
you're so
Then on
smart.
top
That's awesome.
then on top of it, we're non for profits now. We're not a C3, but we're a C6, so we're still a non for profit to be able to write it off. And then you get the CARS cooperative membership that's included with your membership with the association, and that's a rebate program. So, and you don't even have to do anything. All they do is they get you set up on it. You fill out the form. Once it's filled out, you don't even have to pay attention to it. And then you just wait for a rebate check to come in to your shop every quarter. Now you've actually got paid to be part of the association. So not only are you getting education training, okay, and support legislative wise, now you're collecting a check from your vendors that you do business with on rebates. So I mean, really, it really makes it. I mean, it's a no brainer to be involved. It really isn't.
I think that once somebody really gets involved in the association and they've been doing it for a couple years, I agree with you. They're going to look back and go themselves. I know me and you were sitting here. We're like, it's a no brainer. It's no brainer. But if somebody joins, it's kind of like, never thought about it. Join, get embrace it, do it for a couple years. You're going to be looking back and you're going to be saying the same thing me and Mente say is it's a no brainer. Mente, is there anything that we didn't discuss today that you want to get across to anybody that might be listening, or
Um,
leave anybody with any last thought?
well, I just think that our industry is changing. It's changing constantly right now. The next 3 to 5 years is going to be some major changes again, right? We need to be able to um, be involved in what's going on. Don't just be inside your four walls, right? Get involved with associations, especially associations that you complain that they don't bring any value, but yet they hire a lobbyist, right? So I mean, if you don't see value in a lobbyist working for your association, and don't be that shop that just wants to ride the coattails of everybody else, right? And that's what I'm seeing too. As you have a handful of group of shops that are doing all the work, while the other ones are just sitting back trying to collect the reward. And to me, that's just not right. Right? Be
Yeah,
involved, make a difference, have a voice. We're putting out surveys constantly now because we want to hear what the shops want to know, especially with the lobbyists. We want to know what you want us to work on, right? So we're focusing on all kinds of different things, especially with legislation that's already been passed in other states and bringing it into our bill. So we're going to be doing one bill with a bunch of stuff in it to be able to negotiate what we can get out of it, and hopefully we'll have success with it. There's no guarantees. I will tell people that right now. If people think that there's guarantees when it comes to legislation, there's not. There's no
yeah,
guarantee. It's like praying.
and
It's,
and
it's
it's a
like
long, slow process. It's a long, slow
yeah.
process too.
One of the things was that Texas talked about was crawl, walk, and run. Right? You got to crawl first, then you can walk, then you can run. It's not an overnight process, but it does take commitment and money to be able to make the process work because lobbyists don't do it for free.
Yep, yep, and it's impactful to all the shop owners at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
absolutely.
Mente, can you name all the associations that you're involved with, and maybe the website addresses, and anything else you want to say about the three associations for the
Um,
listeners and how they
well, I
can,
mean,
if
the
they're
Florida Auto
interested in
Body
learning more?
Association
I'm sorry, say it
is
again. I was talking. I
no,
apologize.
the Florida Auto Body Association, of course. You can just, Google, instead of me trying to print out all the things, but Florida Auto Body Association for yourself, the Gulf States Collision Association, and then you have the Tennessee Collision Repair Association, TCRA. All three of them are huge. Um, I'm super excited with them. They all have leadership that wants to make a difference. And so I think that's important, that you need to understand that all leadership is well, first of all, I should say all leadership from president to vice president are all shops, right? Sometimes you have vendors that fill in the other roles, but majority of them are all shop owners that are making committing their time, volunteering their
Hmm.
time to do what they have to do to make a difference. So yeah, those three associations, I'm super proud of where Oklahoma is going. They're in a little bit of a stagnant situation with their legislation right now, but I'm sure they'll get through that. And yeah, I mean, those are the ones. And the only other thing I forgot to tell you is that I actually did start a company. So I have Coary and Company LLC is actually our uh, association management company. So we actually manage associations. So if I have another association that's interested in it, I won't take it on full time myself. We have employees that work for us if we need to. So then we'll just have them be boots on the ground while, I help facilitate and guide the direction of those associations.
Wow, that's great. Menti, I gotta tell you, I know I keep saying it, but I'm just really impressed by you. I'm impressed by everything you've done for the industry, how much you've given back. I know that it's a lot of energy and work on your behalf, and I appreciate it. And I'm sure everybody that's listening appreciates it. And you're really good at what you do too. I mean, to look at FABA and think 2 years ago you started the association, and there's almost 450 members right now. That's incredible. And then you're taking the time out of your day to sit here and talk to us on our podcast. I just really appreciate you coming on and sharing your perspective. Thank you so much.
No, no problem. I'm hoping it makes a difference for those that are listening.
And I hope so too. And I hope they do reach out to you, or they reach out to the associations in their respective areas. And for everyone that's listening, if you're finding this material or this information valuable, please make sure you subscribe and make sure you share it with another owner who you might think needs it. And again, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you on the next episode.